Love Muldersdrift is all about bringing people together to build something far bigger than just ourselves. With collaborative works, fiery, passionate people, and a shared vision, we're here to build a community that allows everyone to thrive. So today we're talking to some people to find out what Love Muldersdrift is all about. Tell us a bit about yourself.
I'm Craig Terblanche and I'm a serial entrepreneur.
Okay.
So I've started and had a few successful businesses, had a few failures, but I have a passion for entrepreneurship.
Okay. So what do you do for fun then?
I do a bit of cycling. Used to do off-road, but that gets too dangerous. So I tend to stay on the side of the track.
Okay.
Yeah.
I see you're branded today, Craig.
Yeah.
Tell us about Love Cities and how Muldersdrift is involved in that initiative.
So Love Cities is the national movement that started as Love Howick, and Howick has basically turned around in terms of cleanliness, in terms of community upliftment, in terms of job creation in Howick. And then Matt, the founder of that, said, well, let's take this global, and he started Love Cities, and they are now coordinating all the training that is available through the movement, like the ABCD training, which is asset-based community development, looking for assets in the community that you can help people to leverage to create work and entrepreneurship, and things like the Green Light movement, which is a poverty assessment, or they don't like to call it a poverty assessment anymore, but it's a baseline of the state of the nation in a region so that you could see what needs to be addressed.
So how do people get involved in that?
Well, you can go to Love Cities COZA and see what goes on there, and then of course you can look up Love Muldersdrift and get involved with us here.
Okay.
Yeah.
So how is Love Muldersdrift plugged into Love Cities, particularly in terms of events, in terms of initiatives?
Yeah, we try and align with the events that they have so that we can share the love and share the benefits of the different initiatives. So it's really a collaboration. There's a formal partnership but you can collaborate whether you're involved in the formal partnership or not.
Okay. So why Muldersdrift, Craig? Why do you love it so much?
So I love the environment, I love the people, and I was looking for a place to run some entrepreneurial experiments, and I was just so warmly welcomed here and found people that were prepared to get involved in what I was trying to do.
Okay.
So it works for me, and it's a great environment, and there's great facilities here, and it's awesome.
Okay, so you've mentioned serial entrepreneur, you've mentioned you've been welcomed. What are some of the projects that you're involved with here in Muldersdrift?
So we've done a number of experiments. Water is a massive issue. We ran a water project in Madidi, lots of stories there. Madidi's still got a water crisis, and here there is a water crisis as well.
Okay.
So we looked at things from an entrepreneurship point of view, like what products can we bring in that community can participate in the ownership of or the development of those products to create work while addressing a critical problem like water. So there we have a product that we can still develop, which is creating clay pots that filter the water so you can drink water.
Okay.
The problem with all of the experiments that we've done, except for one which I'll touch on, is it's very difficult to create a sustainable business from the ground up. And this is why people struggle with entrepreneurship, because it's not easy to be a startup. And even, I'm involved in some of the startup ecosystems and advising some of them. And most of the people that get to the place where they can actually participate in an accelerator, for example, have got degrees. They're not the most underprivileged. They're not the community people that you'll see here, where there's exclusion from the normal economic environment. So, it's not easy.
So what would you need in order to make the process just a little bit easier for yourself?
So I've come to the conclusion that you have to get funding. So we have to get business involved, and we've managed to get funding for the one project that I believe will make a massive difference in the environment. So it's essentially through the ABCD process, looking at what assets are there in the community that are obviously abundant and can be used to create something meaningful, I started looking at plastic. And obviously there's a lot of recycling happening, but we found a product called Scarab Tech that actually transforms plastic into fuel. Okay, so we've developed a model for that to be a business owned in the community that creates a few jobs, but actually makes some money that we can then use to fuel the other projects that need money to be sustainable. Okay. So, we went to Europe and got funding for that, and we're busy building a plant in Kaya Sands, which is close enough, but it's part of the ecosystem because all of the plastic from Muldersdrift, in terms of the entities that have bought into the process, and we already have a major entity bought into the process, will provide their plastic to our plant, and we'll provide the fuel back to that environment. So for generators, for cooking, whatever, wherever it can be used.
That is very impressive. So is there any way that community members can somehow get involved, even if it's collecting that plastic for you, or how can people get involved?
So we're also working with the Human Empowerment Fund, and Mishak mentioned the training around recycling. So that's kind of the bottom-up fundamental start of what needs to happen. Is people really need to understand waste better. So part of what we will do is provide dustbins to separate bio-waste, your foodstuff, etc., from the rest of the waste. And then at our plant we'll separate further. We'll separate paper from plastic, etc., and we'll sort the plastic, because typically your white, your clear plastics are being recycled, and that process can continue, but the plastics that are typically not being recycled, we can process. But people are just throwing everything together, they're burning plastic. So we want to educate people, along with the likes of Mishak and the Human Empowerment Fund, to understand which plastics you can do what with, where you can take them to get some value for them, and how they get to the environment, and how we can get them out of the environment and turn them into value.
Okay, so from an entrepreneurial perspective and a community member perspective, what can you tell us can people look forward to in Muldersdrift in terms of them investing in our community? What can they look forward to?
So they can invest their own time in learning about the waste, and they can learn to actually participate in small businesses that will come out of this exercise. So there'll be some environments where it'll just be sorting, perhaps some washing, depending on where the material comes from and what it looks like, shredding, and then it'll go to another place. So those will be little businesses that we'll set up with the Human Empowerment Fund. And then once we start putting plants out, so we anticipate that after this plant, which is our show site, there'll be at least 4 more in Muldersdrift, which will be 4 little businesses run by owners, kind of in a franchise-like model, but it's an operating license rather than a franchise. And that'll create, a number of jobs, probably 6 jobs per plant. But actually the economic benefit goes a lot further than those 6 jobs, because now you've got the fuel, and along with the fuel, we're also going to be doing a kind of like a primer stove that will use our fuel. So there'll be people that can sell the stoves, and people can use the stoves for cooking that are carbon neutral, carbon negative, not harmful. I mean, some people are actually burning plastic to cook or to heat, and that is so dangerous to your health and the environment. So
that sounds like a lot of benefits. That sounds like health benefits, economic benefits,
economic,
That's great.
I call it economic localization. We want to get to the point where you are actually making a real economic difference in an environment like this, and this is just the start. So that's why we're working with Love Cities, so we can replicate this in the rest of the city movements. All right.
3 words to describe Muldersdrift.
It's vibrant. The environment and the people are beautiful and attractive, you know. So, I mean, it attracts all of the cycling, it attracts triathlons, and we want to attract more people to contribute and participate in the economic upliftment, so we can really make a difference to South Africa.
Beautiful. Thank you
Cool.
so much.
Absolute pleasure. Thank you.